Big breaking news! Harry and Meghan are on the verge of giving Netflix what they've always wanted in 2026. That is a documentary, a film about his late great mother, Princess Diana.
The headline sounds explosive because it makes one very specific promise, that Harry has already pulled Meghan into a new Diana project, and William is furious about it. But when you actually trace the story back to where it came from, that's where things start to fall apart. So the real question isn't whether the headline is dramatic. The real question is whether the headline is even true. On the surface, it looks simple. Viral royal commentary started pushing the idea that Prince Harry is moving ahead with a Princess Diana project, Meghan is now part of it, and Prince William is absolutely livid. That version spreads fast because it hits every pressure point at once. Diana, Netflix, Meghan, William, betrayal, money, legacy. But here's the part that changes the whole story. I could not find an official announcement confirming any of it, and the most widely repeated claims trace back to anonymous source tabloid reports. Not to Harry, not to William, and not to Netflix. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because the wording matters more than people think. The viral framing says Harry cast Meghan. That suggests a formal role, maybe even an on-screen role, like a decision has already been made and everyone behind the scenes is scrambling. But the reporting I could actually verify does not show that. The tabloid language says Meghan would play a central role behind the scenes or have strong involvement in development. That is not the same thing as being cast. It's a much looser claim, and it's based on unnamed insiders. So right away, the most clickable part of the story is also the least supported part of the story. But then something changed. Because once one outlet pushes a rumor like that, the second wave doesn't repeat it carefully, it upgrades it. One aggregator says Meghan is heavily involved. Another says Harry assigned her a lead role. Another version turns that into Harry casts Meghan. And once that happens, the internet stops arguing about whether the project is real and starts arguing about whether William should be furious. That's how a rumor mutates into a storyline. Not through proof, through repetition. Here's the confirmed part. There have been reports for months about the possibility of a Harry-linked project marking the 30th anniversary of Diana's death in 2027. Some of those reports say it would examine Diana's humanitarian work, media treatment, and legacy. But a major problem remains. The Independent reported that a source close to the Sussexes' Netflix partnership said those claims were not true. That doesn't automatically prove no project will ever exist. It does mean the rumor has already been publicly challenged by a source presented as close to the deal itself. Now here's the speculative part, clearly labeled. The claim that William is enraged, considering legal action, or sees Meghan's involvement as a personal betrayal comes from outlets leaning on unnamed insiders. That doesn't make it impossible. Royal coverage often works through off-record sourcing, but it absolutely means viewers should not treat those emotional details as confirmed fact. They are claims, not established events. So why is this blowing up now if the foundation is so shaky? Because this isn't just a royal story. It's a perfect internet story. Think about the ingredients. William protects Diana's legacy. Harry feels ownership over his mother's story. Meghan's name instantly polarizes the audience. Netflix adds money, fame, and the threat of commercializing grief. You don't need proof to make people click on that. You just need the suggestion of a line being crossed, and this is where the power dynamic becomes the real story. Diana is not just a family memory. She is one of the most emotionally loaded figures in modern celebrity history. So whenever her name appears in a new project rumor, the argument immediately shifts from, "Is this happening?" to "Who has the moral right to tell her story?" That's why the William angle is so powerful. If Harry were attached to a Diana tribute alone, people might debate taste. But the moment Meghan's name is inserted, the discussion becomes tribal. It stops being about documentary ethics and turns into loyalty, legitimacy, and territory. But here's what people aren't noticing. The biggest clash may not be between brothers at all. It may be between verification and virality. Because the verified part of the story is weak, while the viral part is incredibly strong. There is no confirmed clip of Harry unveiling a Diana project. No interview where Meghan says she's involved. No post from Netflix. No statement from Kensington Palace pushing back. That vacuum should slow the story down. Instead, it speeds it up because the vacuum itself becomes the content. Everyone rushes to fill in the blanks. And what happened next is exactly what always happens in this kind of royal media cycle. Secondary outlets began packaging the rumor as if the dispute were already underway. One outlet framed William as sickened. Another said Harry had given Meghan a major role. Others pushed the idea that this would be a profit-driven project and a final rupture between the brothers. The emotional temperature went up even though the hard evidence didn't. That's a very online phenomenon. Outrage expands faster than certainty. Now, step back for a second. What if the headline is telling you more about the media economy than about the royal family? Because William Furious is a proven trigger. Harry and Meghan is a proven trigger. Diana is the nuclear option. Put those three together and you don't just get attention, you get instant emotional sorting. One side sees exploitation. Another sees Harry protecting his mother's legacy on his own terms. A third side doesn't trust any of it and sees a rumor mill feeding on trauma. That's why the story is sticky. It lets every audience member walk in with a different bias and still feel like the headline confirms it. And this is where it gets more revealing. If Harry ever did make a serious Diana project, it would be almost impossible to separate the tribute from the business. That's not necessarily because the intentions would be bad. It's because the platform would matter. Once a deeply personal story enters a commercial streaming ecosystem, especially one already associated with royal drama, the audience won't just judge the content. They'll judge the motive. That tension is built in before the first frame even exists. But notice the trap. The rumor doesn't need to be fully true to do real damage. If William is not privately reacting at all, the headline still hardens public assumptions about his anger. If Harry is not developing the project, the rumor still frames him as someone willing to monetize Diana again. If Meghan has no such role, the storyline still paints her as an outsider intruding on sacred family history. In other words, the narrative can wound reputations before it ever proves itself. That's why the wording casts Meghan matters so much. It turns a loose rumor into an image. Suddenly, viewers picture Harry actively choosing Meghan for a Diana-centered production, almost like a deliberate provocation. That image is stronger than the evidence. And once people see that image, many won't go back and check whether the sources ever said that in the first place. So what can we honestly say right now? We can say there are tabloid claims about a possible Diana documentary tied to Harry and Meghan. We can say some reports frame William as deeply opposed. We can also say a source close to the Sussex-Netflix partnership previously told The Independent that reports of a Harry-led Diana documentary were not true. And we can say that I found no verified support for the specific viral line that Harry has cast Meghan in a new Diana project. That is the cleanest fact-based reading of the situation. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. Even if this entire version of the story is inflated, it previews exactly how brutal the reaction would be if any real Diana project ever does surface. That's the hidden significance of the viral moment. It's a stress test. And the test result is clear. The public isn't just sensitive about Diana's memory, it is hyper-reactive to who gets to frame it, profit from it, and stand beside it. So if an official announcement does come later, people won't be starting from zero. They'll be starting from this rumor cycle, this resentment, this language of exploitation and betrayal that's already been planted. And if no announcement comes, that leaves a different question hanging in the air. Why did so many outlets feel comfortable pushing the most inflammatory version of a story that still doesn't appear to be confirmed? Because something about this still doesn't add up. And if this keeps escalating, the next viral headline may not just recycle the rumor, it may try to force the story into existence.